Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines, Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend and the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. Yeah, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze.
Howdy, folks. Your host, Double J, back here coming at you live from my studio/RV dining room, located directly outside the city of Little Port-au-Prince, Ohio, the city formerly known as Springfield, Ohio. You know, apparently the place where they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Anyhow, folks, once again, your host, Double J, here. I will be your pilot and navigator for tonight's shenanigan-infused journey into the mind of this particular garbage can dude. Got a real barn burner on deck for you folks here tonight, and we're going to go through an occult and or esoteric review of the 1986 cinematic masterpiece starring Eddie Murphy, The Golden Child. And joining me here tonight is Nick from the Occult Rejects. Nick, welcome, sir.
What's going on, man? Thank you very much.
And fellow Occult Rejects, Cosmic Pete's Julia and Jin the Ninja.
Hi.
Welcome.
What's up?
Welcome back to Operation GCD, Jen and Julia. Welcome. We've done Fridays, I think, together and some other shows, but this is your first Operation GCD experience. So welcome.
Yeah, the grass is greener over here, I think. I like it. I like the air over here.
Nice. I like green grass. I think Nick agrees with me on that one. He knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear this came together in an unofficial fashion in such a fantastic way, because quite honestly, this spun out of tonight's show of reviewing The Golden Child. If folks aren't familiar with the film, I will be playing a brief trailer here for us. And before we dive into any of the details, I found the original trailer. There was I guess it was from early 1986 because it came out in December of 86, I believe the film did. So it's a great trailer it's a perfect 80s trailer. So, and it does a great job. It actually explains the story and the narrative of the plot line, whereas today's trailers do none of that. There's so many trailers I watched today. I'm like, what the fuck's this movie even about, man?
Yeah,
We
I
saw
agree
everything
with
good,
you.
just the trailer.
Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
it's quite honestly, I think it's the formula in which Hollywood makes films today, and that's one example. Don't want to go off on too big of a tangent, but one example. There was a film about 10 years ago. It was a Spanish language film even, and it was supposed to be a drama film. And it was apparently this, they put a lot of money into it. So for some reason, they wanted to try to save it. So it was going to be completely shit canned. And the studio called in, I believe it was Keanu Reeves, to come in for 2 weeks, film a bunch of scenes.
Oh shit, we lost him.
Oh, he's
He
froze.
froze on his own show. Isn't that horrible?
Froze on your own show.
Am I
you're
back? Am I
Yeah,
back?
You're
back.
back.
Where'd I cut out romance drama?
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, they called in Keanu to film like 2 weeks of shit, and they changed it into a crime, some sort of crime thriller. They went from romance drama to crime thriller from 2 different languages. I'm just saying, a lot of films are very formulaic in this day and age when they can pull off a stunt like that. I don't think
Mhm.
anyone saw it at the theaters anyway, but nonetheless, until the last 2 weeks of filming, it was a Spanish language romance, film, and then they brought in Keanu and made it some sort of crime thriller, in an English speaking. So again, they don't, what I'm getting at is, I think there was a certain craft to filmmaking still in the 80s, not only just the writing, as I'm pointing out, and plot lines and the trailers to even describe these fucking films, but you're rubbing off on me, Julia, with all your cursing like a sailor. I feel like I have to curse like a sailor here. I mean, I'm an old retired senior master sergeant, master sergeant, senior NCO from the Air Force. So it doesn't take me much, but I'm not a sailor. But it's about the same language. You know what I mean?
I barely had to push you in that direction.
That's what I'm saying.
Nudge.
I did that for 20
Right.
years in the Air Force, right? It wasn't the Navy, but it's the same difference, I suppose. But also, I think this film was great in the special effects, right?
For the 80s.
Yeah, it was.
I think so.
Pretty monumental, achievements I think they did with some real time special effects. Well,
yeah, like when the guy goes to
that.
meditate and the bad guy shows up and like everything blows away and it just I thought that was impressive then.
There was I think there's a lot of those scenes, right?
Well, to riff off your point, JJ, which I think is really good, is there's a technical aspect of filmmaking, obviously, because they were using actual cameras, actual celluloid. And I think that plays a big part in technical craftsmanship, because if you don't do something, how would you know how to do it? So if you're relying on digital, and I'm not an anti-digital, especially for the early 2000s. I think it was really cool. Like there's a lot of shows that like have that interesting like darker blue kind of filter that you can only really do with digital like handy cams. And I think that was innovative, but I think really this is something totally different. This is like that. I think this is why you like it. I think this is why I like it, and I think this is why Julia likes it, and also Nick, because it's like something classic. It's something that we all can refer to. There's a grammar. It's very coherent as a film language.
Oh, for sure. I'm anti CGI, so I definitely agree.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I would compare it to is like a lot of the movies that come out recently. It's like, I think I heard somebody else say this too, but the Marvel movies and stuff like that.
Terrible.
It's like going to a theme park and you ride the rides and you woo, and then it's over with. Whereas movies in the 80s and before that, obviously, and even some movies in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, they were more like a story. They were more like an experience, like you get like enthralled with it. And it's like it takes you on a journey. Whereas now it's like kind of just bread and circusy type stuff. It's like just fill your mind with this garbage and be happy with it. I mean,
oh, for sure, it's terrible, right? They just call it in with writing these days.
Yeah,
that's what I was getting at. When you can just call in Keanu and change your entire language of your film and genre of your film in 2 weeks, like clearly there's a formula to these films, right? These modern day films.
Yeah. And I think the comedy was better back then. Like,
way better.
Don't get me wrong. I like Superbad and like Judd Apatow movies. I like that kind of comedy because I'll watch that stuff too. Pineapple Express. But there was something about like the 80s comedy that was like a full belly laugh. Like, I hate to even say it, but 80s movies that I grew up on were like The Burbs and Money Pit. I know Tom Hanks is a shithead, but like those movies made me laugh so hard. All Eddie Murphy movies made me laugh so hard.
Oh, for
And
sure.
when I go back and watch them again, even now, I'm still laughing at the same like 5 jokes just over and over again. Like they're still so funny.
That's
Like
one of
I
the things
love
I love
them.
about this movie is that he plays Axel Foley, basically. So it's like Beverly Hills Cop, but he's an LA private detective solving satanic, kidnapping by a satanic cult of a young girl. He ends up fighting demons. This little Tibetan kid that turns out to be a girl. I thought that was a boy in the film. Turns out to be a girl, not trans.
What?
Not trans. Yeah,
It's a girl?
that's a girl. That's a girl. I don't want to spoiler alert. They don't tell you that in the film, though. I just found that out actually not that long ago. It popped up my YouTube feed, like, where are they now? Golden Child, and Eddie Murphy's looking rough. But I like Eddie Murphy in the early 80s, and then again, they were like, hey, this is the boy from the Golden Child. I'm like, that's a girl. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's trans. They're like, nope, it was a girl the entire time. I'm like, well, that's bizarre. I didn't know that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
That's a
I
fun
did not
fact.
know that. Yeah, that's
fun
a fun fact. I could have swore it was a boy.
But before I play the trailer, I turned it over before I turned it over to y'all for any other comments here to start off the show. Did you? I just want to point out this is my favorite era of Murphy, like you were saying there, Julia. Like later Murphy, I could do without. Pre trans hooker Murphy. Remember that incident in the 90s where suddenly Eddie Murphy's associated with all these transgendered hookers on the streets of LA, and then he gets busted by the tabloids. Actually, he gets busted by Andrew Breitbart. He's the one who broke that story. And then suddenly these Eddie's transgendered hooker friends are getting thrown off of tops of buildings all of a sudden. Strange tale.
So crazy,
Strange tale.
dude. I mean,
So
wasn't
that's
this around the same time that like Boomerang and Vampire in Brooklyn and like all those movies were big?
Yeah, exactly. It was everything. I'm good with everything before that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's the dividing. That's whatever he got into around that time. And to be honest with you, I think the reason a lot of 80s films, a lot of 80s comedies were so good is cocaine.
Maybe.
Very
Harlem Nights.
Very cocaine fueled. No, I think all of these productions, like very cocaine fueled. In fact, tonight's production, The Golden Child, is only to give it a 1 degree of separation from Bob Cocaine Evans. The production of this film. So if you're talking Hollywood and you're talking cocaine fueled 1980s films, this is right in the epicenter of that wheelhouse because, like I said, it's ultimately the green light of the film from Paramount Pictures is the guy that Bob Evans hires to replace him there when he gets his independent producer role on the lot until 81 when he gets popped for them cocaine trafficking charges, and then his buddy Barry Diller throws him off the lot, as the legend goes. And Barry Diller is a very important character. But yeah, he was Cocaine Bob's underling. So,
well, before you play the trailer, I just have to say 2 things. I get exactly what you're saying, but there is a movie he made later in life, that's called Life. Do you remember that one? He was older, I think.
Yeah, with Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, that's still one of my faves. I know he was kind of on his way out at the time, but I still love that movie. And unpopular opinion, I actually think his brother is funnier than he is. Charlie Murphy.
Charlie Murphy. Well, please, while you're still there talking here, Julie, please introduce your show since I didn't give you the proper time here to do that thus far.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. I have Cosmic Peach podcast available wherever. Really happy to be here tonight because I've been looking for somebody to cover this movie with me for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And either no one's interested or they haven't seen it or they don't understand why I think it's significant. But so when you mentioned it the other night, I was like, if you don't let me on that one, I'm going to cry and just be in the comments shitting on you guys the whole time. I should have been on this one.
Right.
Fuck you guys.
I was excited to see that you were so into it because this is one of my favorite films, and we did Big Trouble in Little China a few months ago, and the kind of the spinoff of that is we decided to do this because this was the competing Hollywood project to Big Trouble Little China, and shares some of the same actors as Big Trouble Little China, not just Victor Wong, who had a very great year. He might have had the best year in Hollywood for an Asian actor north of 50 years old. He won that year for that category.
Isn't he Chang in in Tremors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's the grandfather in the Three Ninjas trilogy, which was a big part of my childhood.
Yeah, I loved Tremors when I was little. And then when I was doing the notes today, I was like, I put in the side note, I said, did anyone else realize that the old guy is Chang from Tremors?
That old guy, ma'am, is Egg Chen. Egg Chen's a legend. He killed it in this one too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. 100.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was killing it in 1986. He had a big year that year. So, Nick, Jen, before we play the trailer and start the show here, and he may offer you any comments. What are y'all working on over there at the Occult Rejects, Nick? I know you're pumping out new shows every day. The Occult Elvis just put out today, huh?
Yeah. The Occult Elvis, that was fun. Actually, that was really interesting. Julia was there for that as well.
Say Julia
weren't you there? Yeah, you were there for two. Yeah. Oh,
I was there. I seen it.
Yeah. Totally forgot. I'm burnt. Yeah, we had that.
That was a good show, though. I really enjoyed that. I haven't got a chance to re-listen to it, but the first time I listened to it when I was there, it was a good show.
Yeah, it's right off the Tuesday Weld. Wednesday.
Yeah, that's right. That is where the Tuesday Weld. I really liked that show. That was a good one. I was just as excited when you brought up Tuesday Weld as you were sounding like as you were excited when I brought up the Golden Child.
It's a full circle moment here.
Full circle.
For the Occult Rejects. It's a full circle. We're the dream team at this point.
Right.
I agree. I like that. We got some Red Heifer stuff coming out this week. So
nice.
Yeah, some stuff we did with Broadcasting Seeds. We got that coming out Friday for people listening now. And over the weekend, we will have, for audio listeners, and you probably wouldn't be watching now, but we got Mormon Mafia Part 4 dropping audio.
Oh, yeah. That's a great series. Jen's involved in that one, aren't you, Jen? What's going on over there, Jen? You hiding out as a ninja? You doing ninja stuff?
Hi, JJ, but thank you so much for inviting me on. I love to do, especially
sir.
Cinema occult reviews. This is obviously our second one. And of course, my boss, Nick, Mr. 93.
There you go.
Mr. 33, but I'll upgrade him this time.
There you go.
So I have two notes actually. So I'll do those at the end. So one is about Tuesday Welds. I think it's very interesting. I think Julia will be actually interested in it. And if Heidi's listening, so shout out Heidi, I think she'll actually find it interesting too. And then I have a note about the cutting your hair on waxing and waning moon, because we talked about this literally yesterday or the other day.
I was gonna say that just came up, right?
That's right. So I have a note about that. So I will come back to that. But I have a show, Threshold Saints. It's speculative ontology. We're exploring metaphysics through pop culture, but it's not like Julia. If you watch Julia's show, and I obviously want everyone to watch Julia's show, but it's a different. We approach it from different ways. I look at everything through parafiction and through like a technical kind of Kabbalah, Tantra mixture, crazy, wild wisdom. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely subscribe. And I just dropped a 3-part episode on Ralph Bakshi, and then I'm also dropping another episode this week. So yeah, big thanks for that. But okay, so note about Tuesday Welds. So I think when I was watching the episode, I was so excited. Best episode, I think one of my favorites, personal favorites. I thought it was so phenomenal.
Nice.
But okay, so for Tuesday, I actually think she embodied this concept called the Aishath Zenunim. So this is sometimes that's translated as the virgin whore, but it can also be understood as the princess of the Klippas. So there's I
suspect that's not a literal virgin, right, Jen?
Yes, like that.
Not with Tuesday.
Yeah, because it was all about sex magic, right? So you had, but Tuesday would have never participated physically. I'm just saying, if she fills that archetype, there's no.
Oh, I hear you. I was just being a smartass. So this is
No. You're totally right. You're totally right. No, you're totally right, JJ. I just was meaning that if she embodies that concept, that's why she remained. One reason, maybe you could say, she remained and the other ones didn't.
Would you say this is a powerful position within an occult network? What you're describing?
Yeah, she would have. It would have been like the highest of the highest.
Interesting.
It would have been like the person who channeled whatever they're channeling.
Would you be like considering it like I'm trying to understand the type of feminine? Would it be more of like an Empress card instead of Netzach? Is that what you're like kind of getting at?
Yes. It's more Esoteric with a little Howdy, maybe.
Yeah, that would
She's
be like
a hoe, all right. That's the rumor, at least.
Oh, JJ, you dog.
Well, I think that until she got married, she had to maintain a degree of virginity. I'm not saying that she wasn't involved in sexual things. I'm sure that what she did, I actually kind of know, so I'll just say it, is that I think what she did was she directed the sexual activities of other people. That's how I would understand it in a more technical way. Obviously, I don't think of things as sex magic or whatever. I just am looking at it more technically. So I think she would sort of channel the Dakini or whatever they're doing, the feminine divine force, but her mind is virginal. So she doesn't, she's not the whore particularly. She's a virgin whore. So she'd maybe direct sexual actions of people around her, but she's not herself engaged.
That does indeed describe Tuesday Weld's activity. She's very much the director.
Yeah, it was like P. Diddy at his body. Same shit.
It's like how Cocaine Bob Evans brought together the lovely couple of Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate in nuptials, only for Sharon Tate to meet her untimely demise. I often wonder, was that the plan going in? With old Cocaine
somebody's
got
to be pulling the strings behind.
And that is correct, ma'am. And I would say that's Tuesday Weld. I'm glad you brought that up there, Jen, because tonight's discussion includes satanic cult activity in and around Los Angeles, California, which is where she'd be pulling them strings from. So, and I think there's a good tie-in to that whole scene with this whole film. Not as much as the comparison I just did here with a Dragnet and the comparison of the Process Church activities in and around Los Angeles circa 1980s. Highly recommend that, but definitely more satanic cult activity and weird blood rituals. But on that note, we will watch a trailer here and get back to unpacking these ideas here in one moment.
Every 1,000 generations, a perfect child is born. A child with magical powers. A child sent to bring good into the world. A golden child. And now this child has been kidnapped by the forces of evil. As foretold by the Nichung Oracle, only one man can find him. Only one man can rescue him. He is a man from the City of Angels. He is a man who does what is right. A brave man, a true man. It is his destiny to save the golden child. He is the chosen one.
If I'm the chosen one, how come I'm freezing while you're sitting in a warm movie theater? I'm going back to LA and kicking somebody's behind. This isn't supposed to be happening to me. Chosen one, my behind.
Why couldn't somebody choose me to go to the Bahamas? Hawaii is nice. You could have sent me to Vegas. The chosen one.
I love it.
Right? It describes the whole movie and the plot line of the film, and he breaks the fourth wall, which I thought was great.
Mm-hmm. But it's also like when it starts the beginning and all the serious stuff, like who wouldn't want to watch that movie?
Right.
It's so mysterious. You want to see more, and then it mixes in with the comedy. I mean, geez, what else can you ask for?
It definitely grasps your attention immediately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that's not Tibet, that's Mammoth Lakes, California, but strangely enough, they did a great job of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to point out, this is obviously one of my notes, but the idea of the golden child right off the bat, this is an actual Buddhist idea, but it is also a theosophical idea. So I just want to be very clear that when I'm going to discuss it, I'm going to refer to actual Buddhist ideas, but I'm aware of the theosophical ideas as well. And I'm not saying it's bad because it's theosophical. I think we're all kind of past that, you know. We can look at things for the values or truth that they may hold, or the falsehood.
Sure. But obviously, a lot of this falls around the ideas of Tibetan Buddhism as the main character here, Axel Foley. They call Axel. They call him something else in this film, but it's clearly Axel Foley. And
Chandler Gerald.
Yeah, Chandler Gerald, right? Which is a nod, I guess, to the story that this is kind of based off of, this crime noir story that involves Tibet. So I guess he went through some rewrites in Hollywood, but he ended up including, which I think is interesting because it didn't initially include a satanic cult. That was something they added on along the way.
Well, this is what's interesting to me. And when I cover movies, I usually try to like go from the opening scene all the way through the body of the movie to the title or the end sequence, whatever.
Yep.
And so my first note is that it opens up in Tibet. And the significance of Tibet, I feel like, is kind of obvious just because there have been so many occultists who were inspired or channeled beings that were from Tibet, including Madame Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, Alice Bailey. They all said that they channeled beings, Tibetan beings. And there was even an expedition. Hitler actually put together this expedition, and it was like some of the best soldiers he had, and he sent them to Tibet. And that's where they brought back the sigil or symbol of the swastika, and they hijacked it to do what they did with it. But so Hitler, Madame Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, and Alice Bailey all had an obsession with Tibet.
Don't
And
forget
so
the Beatles, Richard Gere, Brad Pitt.
There you go.
You know what I mean? The list goes on, right? The list goes on.
Yes, there is.
Richard Gere and his gerbils had a strange fascination with, Tibet.
Well,
yeah.
I'll add this because obviously I practice Vajrayana, so I will say it's sorcery. I mean, like if you're interested in magic, it's a really great system. And it combines Buddhist, but it's all Buddhist ideas. So you're not really doing
Buddhist wizards,
right? So you're using your mind. You're using the conceptual ideas of sorcery, especially like that. We always laugh. I always tease like the Dharma practitioners who aren't Asian because obviously I'm half. So we call them Westoids. So I'm just gonna use that really quickly, but it's not in a pejorative. But there is
sounds like it, bro. What are you talking about? How's it not a pejorative?
Well, it's because I'm a Westoid too, really, right? Because like
you're a self-identified Westoid. It just sounds like a negative, some sort of negative derogatory statement, right? You're a Westoid.
Absolutely, but I think that I like the idea that it could be like you could say the word is like just a vessel that can contain like any idea that we want. So I'm like being very Discordian, I guess, by self-referentially using it.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Jen. You could convince me you just made that word up. I have no idea. I'm the first time I've ever heard it. So
it's very online. It's very like probably.
Is it Kino?
It isn't Kino. Kino, it definitely
taught me that word too recently. I haven't really grasped the concept. That's why I have to keep asking, is that Kino?
Kino. So you always say it's like it's true Kino. That's the real way to do it. And if you're really cool like me, you do the you do with a V. So you do like true Kino, but it's all lowercase, and then you do like Kino. Because that's like
I appreciate it, but I'm not sure if I'm any closer to understanding what is or is not Kino. So I probably can continue to ask these questions. Is that Kino?
It just means, is it really aesthetic? Is it beautiful? Is it like capturing a kind of, the light has to be captured in a specific way. You could almost say a Kabbalistic way. There's like filtered through like layers of, maybe they're gradients of color on the screen. So it's like anything that's really beautiful. Like a sunset can be very Kino. That doesn't have to be on screen.
I think I might be tracking. I have a very keynote scene on deck here for us in a few minutes from the film. I think when I bring it up, I think you'll know what I'm talking about. So the film goes in Tibet, right? So we already automatically, right off the start of the film, we see this Tibetan Buddhism is the root of this story with this young child, right? They, they're he's hanging out in the temple, right? When he gets what do we call it, kidnapped or Buddha napped? What are we calling this?
Yeah, kidnapped.
Buddha napped.
Baby
They sent out a Buddha alert on everyone's cell phones.
He's
Amber Alert.
golden napped.
Well,
am I getting my deities mixed up, Jen? Is it not a Buddha alert?
You could say he's like a Tulku, which Tulku is like a reincarnated Lama. It's like a Lama from a previous rebirth, or a saint, or a Mahasiddha, or an accomplished master. And so not all schools of Tibetan Buddhism believe in it, but this film in particular is very syncretic. Now, it is really important to note that the consultant, Ken MacLeod, wrote it's famous in Vajrayana circles. So he wrote The Magic of Vajrayana. So he gets it. He even says, like, I have the wisdom and understanding. Like, that's the exact words he uses. So he gets it. Like, he's in that clear view, whatever he calls it, like a lot of the time anyway. So he did not train in the specific school that believes in Tulkus, but obviously it's drawing from multiple different schools of Buddhism. So you can see this in the first scene with the yellow hats. So this is the majority sect. This is the Gelugpa school. So when they're wearing the tall yellow hats, that signifies usually what school they belong to. And it's also interesting to note that the yellow hat shamans are also a faction of shamans in Mongolia. So a lot of this has like Mongolian kind of like central, it's very Central Asian, the whole thing. It's not just Tibetan. Like, Tibet used to be a huge empire, right, at one time. So that's why it's kind of like it was a large land, like, that ranged really from Mongolia, Manchuria, well into almost Western Asia. So
is this yellow hats you speak of have anything to do with the yellow dragons?
Well, it is interesting.
The gang we see later in the film?
It certainly could have a draconic.
Tommy Tongs runs the place down at the restaurant.
Well, is clearly like an overlap. I think there's like a motif. Like, dragons are not. They're usually auspicious, meaning like lucky. So they're not inauspicious, but they are a symbol of like power and strength. And dragons. So, yeah, dragons. And so
we got a lot of dragons here tonight, don't we?
A lot of Nagas, for sure.
We even have a half dragon, half lady.
Right, yeah. There is one.
Frightening.
Well, you know what it reminded me of, actually, just hearing Jin talk about it a little bit. I'm like halfway retarded when it comes to like anything other than just like the basics of like Buddhism, this, that. Like, I've studied like the surface level of stuff, but what it reminded me of was, did you ever watch Avatar: The Last Airbender? And it's like this kid that keeps getting reincarnated, and he's got like all the power, and they have to train him, and he's born every like 100 years or something like that. It reminded me a lot of the story of the Golden Child, for anybody else who watched that show. I liked it it was like a 90s Nickelodeon thing.
Yeah, I'm doing
not familiar with that one
right now, Julia. That's so.
Oh, really?
But yeah, that is what he is. That's a very good understanding of like.
He's an airbender.
He's like a rebirth of someone who had, you could say, quote unquote, magical powers. We would call them like cities or like spiritual accomplishments more than magic powers. And so he's reincarnated into a golden child. So that's worth exploring. But I'll let you decide where you want to take it, JJ. But I'm ready with that when you want to go there.
Yeah, we'll get back for sure. I appreciate that, Jim. We'll get back to Tibet in chronological order from the film, I think, because they kidnap. We don't really understand who this child is, the golden child, right? We just see him. We go there. It starts off in Tibet, like you pointed out, Julia, and then this kid gets Buddha napped, and then Next thing you know, he's in Los Angeles.
Mm. And that's where we get introduced to Chandler Jarrell, who is Eddie Murphy.
/
And
Axel Foley.
yeah, well, I do have I like to point out some of the funniest parts in the movie as we go along. And
Sure,
the
please
opening
do.
of it shows like the Hollywood sign, and like, okay, we're no longer in Tibet. This is the transition. Now we're in Hollywood. And it just shows him walking down the street, and he comes up behind a guy reading Chunky Asses at the
Right.
magazine
Right.
stand.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't have those anymore, do we? The old newsstands, right? Those things are a thing of the past.
I've always thought that was one of the funniest parts of the movie. He's like, ass pie.
Right.
Ass
He berates the guy, runs him out of there.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, yo, when I watched it recently, I was like, I don't remember that.
Chunky Asses?
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
Oh yeah, dude.
So because this is the moment where we first meet Chandler Jarrell, I have in my notes here, I looked at all the names, but this is the only name that kind of stood out to me. Chandler, that name means candle maker, so I don't know if that's significant, but maybe. But his last name, Jarrell, means spear ruler or rule by the spear. So we have two different things that kind of make sense for why his name might be Chandler Jarrell, because he's like the chosen one. Maybe he's like the light in the dark place. He's, the candle, and then he's the spear ruler. And then we see the spear later on in the movie.
Sure.
But yeah, I think, even down to the names, you can kind of pull cool stuff out of that.
So to piggyback or to riff, I'll call it riffing. I'll
riff away, friend.
But it was a great point. And so the spear wielding thing is really interesting because I also noted that, and because that is the golden child. So especially in theosophy. So the golden child is based off of a Puranic figure. So when I'm saying Puranas, that's a kind of Hindu scripture that was written between about the 1st century AD till about the 10th century CE. So these aren't the Vedas, but this is what modern Hinduism really is based on. So what people call Hinduism now, it's not really Vedic. It's really based on Puranas, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So there's Shiva. So everybody knows Shiva. He's blue. He's ferocious. He has 3 lines on his forehead. They worship him usually with a lingam, meaning like it's kind of a phallic stone. Anyways, he has a son with his wife, whose name is Shakti sometimes, and they have a son named Kumara, which literally means the sun. So he wields a spear in his right hand. Now, the reason why he does this is very important because he throws away the left hand texts into sort of the primordial water where they get swallowed by a giant whale. So there's an idea here that the Kumara, so a person who is thus reborn, but it's really an avatar of this deity, can retrieve these left-hand path texts, thus unifying, synthesizing, you could say, the world tree or the universe or conceptual mind with like non-conceptual thinking. Like it's like a theosophical kind of like Christ consciousness sort of idea. Like they're talking about it like it could be literal, but then there's also an idea that it could also be maybe just a process of consciousness.
Sure. What's this theosophical stuff you guys keep coming on? I saw you shake your head, Nick. What was this? What's all this business about?
I just thought that was interesting, getting into Gnosticism.
Yeah. What do you think is interesting about that?
So I was thinking about covering that myself recently.
Oh. What do you think about that's interesting relative to the story here, the narrative of the tales of the golden child? This occult understanding of these things, right? Because is this concept of a golden child, is that in theosophical folklore or literature, or what are we talking here?
Well, this stuff is, I would think, theosophy.
Is this Kino, Jen?
Well, it's definitely in theosophy. Like it's Blavatsky definitely, Alice Bailey definitely talks about it. Like Nick's
The golden child.
right. Yeah, and it's a Gnostic idea too. It's the Seth or the Adam. Although in this case it's really the Seth because Seth is the son, right? So this is like a child, so they can't be generative, meaning that like a father is a fully masculine force, he's generative. But a son isn't necessarily generative depending on their age. So that's why that's why they call it a child. So I mean, when you guys have covered like we always talk about archetypes and how it's so important in magic that people embody certain traits. Well, a child can be both male and female in a way. They're hermetic by themselves because they're non-generative because they're a child. So it's kind of like the perfect vessel. If you want to think of it in a really theosophical way, the golden vessel is like, if you look at Catholic images, I've talked to Nick about this a million times, but like the Sacred Heart images, and I've talked to you, JJ, a million times about this, but the Sacred Heart image is the perfect idea of it. It's the golden heart. So that's the golden vessel, the golden child, and the Kumara. So the idea is that you have
We're talking like a Rosicrucian heart. Is that what we're calling the rosy
it's
heart?
very similar. It's all very
Okay.
interrelated. Like I think there's deep connections to all these things. I mean, I personally look at everything more axial or I don't like the word perennial, but sometimes people understand what I'm talking about if I call it that. So I think they're all interrelated, and I think theosophy's lifting like a superficial layer, and they're making connections. I don't all agree with them, but I don't fully discard it either because I think that they're also talking about something really interesting and something also they are talking about like Gnostic ideas, but they're also Christian ideas, and they go beyond that. There's obviously this whole film is about Tantra, but you could read it in a very sort of like theosophical Buddhist kind of way, like a sort of mixture of the two, and that would totally make sense too. And because all of them see this kind of backdrop as very similar, and obviously theosophy lays like a kind of narrative groundwork for them to build off of. Now, Ken MacLeod was who was the consultant for this film, very famous Dharma author.
I like him already. He's a Scots Irishman.
He is. He even has an accent, JJ. But he was one of the last people to be trained in the pre-modern Tibetan way. So he was like, there aren't very many teachers that were trained like that, like before the advent of like cell phones. Like his teacher didn't even know what those things really were. They were totally
back when it was more of a genuine source instead of kind of the bastardization of some of the concepts, I suppose what you're saying.
Right. So he is drawing from like a real layer. Now, he, as most Tibetan Buddhists are, open to looking at seeds in other places. But it requires a high degree of discernment, just like it would in a Kabbalistic way. So the whole idea is like rectify the words as they are or as you make them. And so I'm saying words, and I know that's kind of meta, but the words are really important. And so this comes up a lot in the film, obviously, because you see like the sigils, the Tibetan seed syllables, you see Sanskrit writing covering the walls. Obviously, this is a big part of Buddhist magic is the word. So you can even hear right away, there's even a relationship with Christianity. So there's something similar between all the different kinds of magic because that's really all it is.
Sure. No, I have a couple scenes with some of those sigils you're talking about. We can see some of that stuff. I know what you mean, Julie, about the names and stuff. I definitely agree with you. One of the weird names in this film, though, is the villain here, the demon devil fellow, old Sardo Numsa, right?
Sardo Numsa.
Does that name have any Gnostic meanings in this Golden Child references, Nick? What is this name? What do you make of the name Sardo Numsa?
One thing I did look up is specifically with that name is that his name and Chandler Jarrell both equal the same number. They both equal 141 in English gematria. They both equal.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
Some deep gematria there in comparison, then, because that's a weird ass name, right? Sardo Numsa.
Yeah. Real quick, just to like even get some of my stuff out that
Sure, knock it out, bud.
Yeah, you talk. There's just certain things that got brought up that I want to try to cover.
Please.
When you mentioned the, I guess theosophy, I started. One of the things, the reason for that piqued my interest is because I do think this movie has Kabbalistic attributes to it.
Okay.
And I do think if you're into that, if you're into the Hermetic Kabbalah, especially like put it this way, if you're into Thelema or kind of like looking at the way Crowley would do stuff, you'll pull from different areas. So it's like you could use Buddhism as an image because you can still convey the message with the way things match up on the tree of life, hermetically and Kabbalistically. So I do think like you could you could be using the tree of life and using Norse gods to tell the story, or Greek gods to tell the story.
Sure.
It doesn't
I
matter.
put that in my notes too, Nick. I think the exact same thing.
And I do think
formulaic is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I do think it
kind of
might
like
be
these Hollywood films of today starring Keanu Reeves.
Thelemic inspired, possibly itself, like the movie.
This movie is.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I wanted
agree.
you to mention that, you had mentioned it. Jin had mentioned it earlier, and I was like, "Fuck it, maybe I should have just got my gematria stuff off at the beginning because sometimes it can get boring." But he called me Mr. 93 and then 33. Golden Child in English equals 93.
All right.
Saturn, Vishnu, Moon.
That's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, equals Cash Patel. I found this interesting. I tried telling people this. This is why people were so obsessed with it. Hawk Tua also equals 93.
Does it really?
Yeah,
I believe she's been hawked to it out of existence of society.
Yeah. And Golden Child in Hebrew equals 170. I found that interesting. You still get a 17 and then a 93 in a sense. And that does equal Moon, Lamb of God, and Hand of God in April. I do find that interesting going with Golden Child. When it comes
what's the significance there with April and the Golden Child?
Well, the Golden Child, in my opinion, even when it comes to Kabbalah, the sphere Tiferet matches gold. That's related with the sun, and the specific image that you can even use for that is a child.
Yeah, I was going to ask about images because what's going on here, right? I didn't want to interrupt you, but I feel like there's a lot going on with this image.
I said the same thing.
It's really interesting, JJ, because you can say that throughout the film, they also refer to Eddie Murphy as the chosen one. So who really is the golden child? Like, who really is the golden child? Is it just like a projection outwards? Is that what that little Asian kid, who is Filipino, by the way, not even Tibetan, but
and not a boy. That's definitely a girl, not a trans.
Well, it's very hermetic.
Well,
so
allegedly not trans.
It almost, to me, as someone who's interested in like Hermetic Kabbalah, it does feel like a deliberate choice. A girl who appears as a boy.
That's I see now. I wasn't even thinking of that. Nick's shaking his head and agreeing. What do y'all got on that?
That'd be very Howdy-like. I mean, even the old man with the wiping the booger on his shit when he was outside. I think was it at one point? Was he wearing like orange at some point?
You want to watch it? I got that clip right here. If you want to watch it,
I would even say that's kind of like where a jokester would land too, as well on Howdy.
He's a trickster character, isn't he?
Yeah, well, they've already the magician. He's gone there and come back, so he kind of realizes like the world is a joke to a sense.
This is the first time old Axel Foley meets this old wizard man, Victor Wong. But you're right. He does have some orange in here. I think he's got some red, but it's kind of the same color as I was thinking of this background of this image, right?
And that would all be the left color too. That would be orange, black, and red.
Let's watch this quick clip of when these two meet in the film. It's quite comical.
Hey, wait a second. You took 100. You took the 100. No, that's no. See the $1. See the $1 for you. See the George Washington? That's Benjamin Franklin. That's not happening. You got the wrong money. Can I have my money back? And you gave me the wrong necklace, too.
You're breaking my heart, asswipe.
Well, you speak English just fine.
So do you, so what of it?
Hey, listen, man. Give me my 100 back, take this $1 and take this to give me the right one.
Monkey breath, puke face, eater of turtle slime.
Okay, tell you what, just give me my shit. You take your shit.
What, Scotch Bucket?
Okay, you slick shithead.
That Victor Wong, he's a character.
At some point when he's wearing his hat, I'm pretty sure he's an orange. Like an orange.
Yeah, maybe in the side of the temple. I have that clip as well. He turns into a bird there, right? Which I don't know all this bird stuff with occultism or whatnot or any esoteric understanding of this, but there's a bird guide in this film, and then that dude turns into a bird at one point. So I thought that was kind of strange.
The first miracle, though, that he performs at the very beginning of the movie is resurrecting the dead parrot, but it's that parrot, the same parrot that follows him throughout the movie that the Wong guy transforms into. So he's actually the parrot from the beginning of the movie. Because if you notice, like right as they kidnap him, that parrot flies out the door and then it follows him throughout the movie, and then he turns into the little Asian guy at the market, and that's the first time you realize the parrot is actually this shaman guy, if for lack of a better term. But I was gonna say it's interesting that they chose a girl to play a boy in this movie, or however you want to think about it, because and then Jin said that she was Filipino and not even whatever Tibetan or whatever whatever he's supposed to be. But M. Night Shyamalan did that same shit when he did the live action version of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because it was supposed to be an Asian boy, and the cartoon is like an Asian cartoon. I don't think it's Japanese, but it might be. But anyways, he picked a white kid, and he also changed the race of like all the different tribes, and like made one tribe like people from India, and he made another tribe like all Caucasians, and he basically took the idea and he like switched it all up and made it weird, and people hated that because it didn't follow the story like the cartoon. But I do think it's interesting because it's like the same idea of this last airbender, the Avatar, and he's supposed to be this, and that he took the character, made it a white kid, and then changed all the other races throughout the tribes. So I don't know, it could be significant in some way.
Yeah,
sounds like it, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point, Julia. I want to just piggyback or riff off that and talk about the parrot for a moment. And this is a really significant tantric kind of bird because it is one of the, well, in tantra at least, it's considered to be the only bird that can mimic human speech. So it is if you want to liken it to like a goddess that you can then Google or look up an image of her, it's called Matangi. Interestingly, the rap artist MIA also had an album called Matangi. So it is the goddess who is very Tiferatic. So there's another Tiferatic element actually in the Naga Kanya. So you guys were talking about before, the snake woman or the snake princess. That's what
the dragon lady?
The dragon lady. She's a Naga
She's frightening.
Kanya. So this is like this is a traditional like idea is that a Naga Kanya can tell is like a prophet or a seer or like someone who has like, because they're in both worlds. A Naga lives in the subtle world, meaning like the spirit world, but a man lives or a person lives in the human world, in the animal world. So she's like half and half. So she's like liminal. So she's able to access maybe more spiritual knowledge.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on this comment here? We got Golden Child brings to mind the Golden Boy and Jade Girl of Chinese myths, servants of the Jade Emperor who were said to guide the good people to paradise.
This is really great comment. Sorry, JJ. It's very Kino. Yeah. Well, okay. So the Buddhist idea is that they're the servants of Guanyin. So if you look at Taoist depictions, not Buddhist depictions, but Taoist depictions of her, she'll be with the two children. So the Jade Girl is obviously that's a stone of Netzach, and then the Golden Boy. He is Tiferatic, but because he's a child, it's like Aeon of Horus shit. Like, I mean, that's what it is. He's like he's going on the path from Hod to the sun, from Hod to Tiferet, basically.
Nice.
Since speaking Kabbalah real quick. I
Go ahead, Nick. Yeah, go ahead.
Twist in there, JJ. At some point later on in the movie, this lady, Hinang, or however you say her name, she does have like a green. I don't know if it's jade, but she does have like a green necklace on at some point. And I do think, again, because of the child, I think is Tiferet. I do think that some point Eddie Murphy is playing Hode, and I do think she's playing Netzach. And I do think you actually see like, and throughout the movie, I do think it's actually crossing the abyss and coming back. You know, and fighting the demons is part of it. You know, that story.
And green's associated with that, the color of green or the stone of or jade or something.
Yeah, well, to show, she would be Netzach, which would be a female green sphere at the bottom of the tree, right underneath the golden child, and then you have Eddie Murphy. I think would be the guy on the left, the black pillar, but the orange guy. You know, the orange sphere. You know, and I do think they throughout the story, I think they go up the tree. I think you see a progression going up the tree, and I do think like the parrot or whatever that bird is, that rainbow bird, could possibly be the rainbow that emanates from Netzach to Hode. There's that, and I also, like, from my own experience, I had wondered if it is a story of crossing the abyss and going up the tree of life, could that be like the rainbow bridge that you will witness before you blast off?
That's so interesting.
That is a very rainbowy bird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a rainbow bird.
Very rainbowy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking dragon ladies. We're talking all this Eastern mysticism stuff. I got a clip relative to the film here tonight. In fact, it is indeed a clip from the film. And it describes all these things, the golden childs, the chosen ones, the dragon ladies. And I'll bring that up for us right meow.
So if something happens to the kid, the whole world goes to hell?
The world will become hell.
Ah. Not far from that now. Listen, who would want to take the kid anyway?
Those who want evil rather than good.
Can you be a little bit more specific?
We do not know who took him.
Well, could you tell me why the people that took him are trying to make him eat blood?
Nothing in this world will hurt him. But if he were to pollute himself with anything impure, he would become vulnerable.
Okay, so if he eats the blood, they can kill him?
Yes.
Oh.
Do you have any other questions?
As a matter of fact, I do. What are you doing this weekend, because your silhouette is kicking? Plays the maracas too?
This is the chosen one?
Yes. I mean, people certainly do put on a good show. Where'd you find her at?
She is the librarian of the secret repository at Palcosin. She was flown here to help us. She's over 300 years old.
And how she managed that one?
One of her ancestors was raped by a dragon.
Does that happen a lot where you're from?
So 300-year dragon, 300-year-old dragon rapes aside, we got a good sight picture there on what's going on with this narrative here with the golden child and the chosen one, and how old
even the number 3 though, JJ. Like,
what's that with the number 3?
Yeah, like when they're saying like 300, she's 300 years old. Like, you could say that they're talking about Binah, or you could also say that time is always divided by 3.
Is that a good lifespan for half dragon, half human? What's the average lifespan there?
I mean, could be like 1,000 years. Could be.
I was gonna say 1,000 years.
I feel like they came in. I feel like they came in short with the 300. So I feel like that might mean something, right? With the, they may have intentionally put it as 300 for some reason, right? I feel like your dragon should be much older, in my opinion. I want an older dragon.
Even with her, I look at her aspect as almost being like, I mean, Jim would probably see this too, Binah. You never really get to see her except for that one point. And again, it's because she's more of like a voice in your mind or an idea. She's not really an actual image until you do see her. And then, in my opinion, a lot of sometimes some dragon or maybe reptile-like symbolism. I even think some of the aliens from the Alien movie is like part of the brain, possibly the hippocampus. Then again, that would be of the mind. You really, thoughts. You're not like an actual thing yet. Again, she's behind something. You're just hearing something. What is that? You don't have nothing to attach that to, except for that silhouette that he found. He thought was banging or whatever.
Right, and she plays the maracas.
Later, you're gonna stop laying around naked all day watching soap operas, smoking cigarettes or some shit.
Yeah,
right. he gets upset, then he gets all butthurt, right? Because he doesn't want to be the chosen one, right? And he goes to take it out on the dragon lady amongst other folks. But
is
she's
this
an interesting
just a
character,
picture?
right? This is just the picture of her upper torso. I wanted to say,
Yeah,
folks,
we never get to see the dragon tail.
Well, they show it, right? But it's like the images
silhouette.
that I can bring up. No, because he knocks down the thing at one point, right?
Right. Did we get to see the whole tail?
Yeah, it's pretty good special effect for the era, right?
Right. Yep. There we
It's
go.
the best image I can get. It's kind of grainy, but
So she reveals like who she is. Like that was really good, Nick. I appreciate that.
So what's a dragon mean for Eastern stuff there, Jen?
Well, it goes with what Nick was saying about Binah and like how
power.
It brings you, it's seductive, so it like brings you closer, and then it reveals what it really is behind the veil. It's how you could maybe describe it. And so she's like she would say that she's the wife of Rahu, who is the dragon of the eclipse. So there's a common misconception on astrology Twitter that somehow that worshiping deities of Saturn are related to Saturn, like Kali. Remove Rahu from a birth chart. That's actually not true. I don't even know who came up with that. It actually densifies his presence in a chart. That's like a very basic tantric knowledge. So I just want to point that out, is that where he sort of, so what I'm trying to say is that at Saturn, like if he has a Saturnian sort of vibration, he would actually appear a lot more snake-like. It would be very serpentine.
So you're saying this is more snake stuff than dragon stuff, kind of?
Yes, that's a really good way to put it, JJ. Is that you would see more of a serpent, and then once you move away from Binah, it would make more sense as more of a cosmic or mythical being.
Yeah, because she's got a rattler on the back end of this thing.
I was gonna say that. She's got
knows what I'm talking about.
That shaker deal on the back. But you know what? I think that they use colors and weird stuff like that throughout this entire movie, and I'm not good enough with occultism to tell you what it means, but it's always like yellow dragon biker gang, and then
got them on deck horse here.
Yeah, and then it's like I feel like they mispronounce things on purpose, and I don't know why that might be significant. Like the main bad guy, Sardo Numpspa, he can't say J. He can't say J's. No. He's like Mr. Yarrow.
That's right.
He's British. I mean, let's not fault him for anything else other than that, right? He's already done enough.
But he also can't, it says like he's supposed to find the cross dagger of Ajanti, and he goes the cross dagger of Ayanti. Like he can't say
He does do shit up, doesn't he? You are correct about that.
Yeah, and so I thought that was
arch
weird.
Villain, though, wouldn't you agree? He's pretty as far as villains go, he's a pretty good villain.
Yeah, he's a ginger. Of course, they make the ginger the bad guy every single freaking time.
Gingers have no soul, so I mean, it makes sense. He would play a demon.
Well, JJ, I take that personally.
But I'm half ginger, Julia. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, it's a perfect role for him, right? He's a ginger, right?
Right. Yeah. But so I think to back up a little bit, like,
sure,
Chandler, he's like on this talk show and he says he's looking for this 16-year-old girl, and that's another
I was gonna bring that clip up next.
moment. Okay, I was gonna say, like, that's at the beginning of the movie, but the rest of it, like the blood sacrificing and all that stuff, won't make sense until we mention the part where he's like, that's how he gets introduced to the story, is he goes on this talk show and he says he's looking for Cheryl Mosley or whatever her
Cheryl
last
Mosley.
name is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I like
And
your outline. If I may, I thank you for kicking us off. I got that clip right here. If we can watch that here for the folks.
yeah, it's
We'll-
so
and we'll
hilarious.
unpack some of this because this is the cross section, right? So they came from Tibet to Los Angeles, and they were just talking about not eating blood. This is the cross section of the Tibetan Buddhism and the Satanism here in America. Cross section here in Los Angeles here with this clip.
Now let's talk about tortoises. Judy, what have we got here? This is great.
Oh, this is Teddy, and he's 80 years old.
We're 80?
Darling.
He's wonderful.
Teddy can kiss my ass. Listen, I'm trying to find this girl. Okay, her name is Cheryl Mosley. She was last seen on Vineland down in North Hollywood. She had on a sweater and a skirt. I'd appreciate if you contact me at 468-8492. If you have any...
Thank you.
No, shut up, man. If you have any information that leads to the finding of this girl, I'd appreciate if you contacted me. Yo, hey, if you don't put the camera over, I'll bust your ass, man. Leave the camera on me. Cheryl Mosley, Chandler Joe, 24 hours a day, 468-8492. Now you can talk about whatever you want to talk about with the tortoises and whatever. Excuse me.
So that's how Chandler Gerald gets roped in here as the chosen one, because homegirl there, martial arts expert and mysterious wizard lady.
She's
she
a
comes and
zucchini.
finds him.
She's a zucchini.
What is this? What is it? A zucchini?
She's a zucchini. She's like a yoga practitioner, and she's obviously like gained some cities, like some accomplishments. Like,
Okay.
She's
got skill sets.
real-
She's got some skills.
Yeah, she's a real badass. And you know, when I don't know if it's time for me to say it just yet, but in classic 80s style, one of the first scenes where she's like going off with her badassery, of course she has to kick a fucking pipe down and her tits are all wet and flopping around and stuff, and her nips are showing through her shirt. It's like, of
Classic
course,
80s.
classic 80s, you know. But she was actually
was that the Yellow Dragons fight? Was that the same fight when they go fight the Yellow Dragons?
yes, but
He's
I
like sit
actually
in the
had
car
not
and then suddenly she
seen
comes
her
in to save him.
before. Yeah, had you seen her
Yeah.
in any other movies?
No,
No.
I don't think I have since either, quite honestly.
No, and
She
she's so
retired.
cute. She's so cute.
The golden boy girl, the golden child, they didn't act again either, apparently. This was their only film. For sure, her only film.
But so I was going to mention, because I said, like, I feel like they use colors a lot, like with the yellow dragon and this and that. If you really go back and watch the movie and you count how many times they use blue, it just is weird to me because, like, even that clip you just showed, the talk show, the curtain in the background is blue. He's wearing a blue shirt. And then at the end, there's a lot of blue in the middle, but like at the end, like, 2 or 3 of the characters are all wearing blue shirts, and so I don't know if that's significant in some way, but I think the
Yes.
colors are a big deal.
No,
I'm sure
that
they are,
was-
sure.
Sorry, JJ.
Go ahead, Jen.
That was great noticing, Julia. Let me just say, even when he says, "Bring the camera back over here," like, look at me, and he's wearing that black leather jacket, that really stood out to me. It's very banal, but he's also in the blue, like Julia said. She's really pulling focus towards him, and she's wearing like red. It's very Geberatic, like martial, but she's perceiving him. And as Julia said, it's not just him that has the blue shirt, but it's also the background of the talk show. And then when it zooms out, you can see it, and it's like, so it's like the whole idea is like you're standing at Gebera, you're in the fire, but then you're looking at the ocean and you can see yourself, and then you acknowledge what it is, but it doesn't necessarily appear as you, right? And that's sort of that's a very magic, I'm sorry, that was very meta, but that is kind of what it's like. It's like there's an interaction with perception that happens between the ocean and the water and the fire, you could say that. So that's kind of what they represent. But they reverse the poles. You see that? Usually you would have a more masculine figure at Mars or Gebera and a feminine figure at Hesed, but you don't have to.
So they're playing gender games like they did with the Golden Child, huh? So is that what you're telling me?
Well, it's interesting because it's like she's the one in perception.
Yeah.
He's just saying, bring the camera towards me. Let me amplify or magnetize this girl's story, like outward. And but what she's focused on is him. So she's singular in her view, where he's expansive, very much Hasidic.
If you want to think about it, JJ, a really good way to explain it, I think, even with this, if you want to make it Kabbalistically, which I think Jin's doing a real good job. I would, include the chess head again, even projecting or expansive. If you took a light bulb, the light that's shining out of it would be kind of like male energy, and the light bulb itself would kind of be the feminine energy. And the male energy is coming out of it.
It's a good analogy, friend.
Interesting. Yeah.
That would be like a. So I even think when he was saying about him, in a sense, if you think about it, she sees him then. And I would say he is very much Chesed at that point, very expansive, very powerful, loud, being seen, by a lot. It's on TV. She sees him.
Chosen one.
She sees him, and then basically she takes him and brings him, wherever he's got to go. It's very magnetic.
Well, and I think we're supposed
him, or is he the chosen one?
Well, playing the side of the she chose him.
She chose him. Yeah.
And then she pulls him
She's the one doing the
choosing. Like the left pillar, she now fucking pulls him all the way to her side.
Yeah.
We're
Sorry, guys,
supposed
just
to
really
be
quick. Sorry, Julia.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to say what Nick's saying is really profound, because that is even the idea, is that Dakini will lead you through experiences, you as the witness or the perceiver, rather than, it's not just all your will. It's like there's part of it that is a little bit other power, is what we would call it. So it's like generative outside of you. Maybe it is you, but maybe it isn't. It's kind of like an interstitial moment. So I don't know.
As the story goes, this is how it happens, right? She signs him up for all these things, right? Because she sees him on the TV, right?
Yeah, she has to select him as a partner.
Yeah, as the chosen one.
Right, exactly.
And
so sorry.
No, I was interrupting you. Go ahead. I just don't want to forget.
No. Please, I'm done.
When I was saying before in the video, I do think that they both play the princess and the prince, Hode and Netzach, but they both are going to play the king and the queen at one point. And I do think at Chesed, when she's seeing him, she's seeing the king in that Hode is going to become going up the tree. She already sees it in him, so that's why she picks him. That sounds a little much, but I do think
that makes total sense.
Speaking of Kabbalah, Nick, is old Noopsy, is he pronouncing stuff in Hebrew stuff, Kabbalah-wise? Is that what's going on?
I was wondering about that, with the whole reason why he doesn't say the J.
Well, there's no J in
going
Hebrew.
Yep.
There's no J in Hebrew, so you wouldn't. That's even a thing in magic. Like
that's why he's mispronouncing Yerel, right? He's calling him Yerel instead of Gerald.
Well, you could say it's like the rectification of the J, almost. Like you could say it's like how they say Ihovah instead of Jehovah. So like you can even hear in that there's a distinction, obviously, in like maybe what God you're referring to. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's how people think of it. Or maybe like what like covenant you hold. Like that's obviously very Mithric. But I think that's kind of in line with the general magical sort of orders and how they view the world.
Right,
and
so I think we left off talking.
They pointed out, just really quick, they pointed out because the two things, and this is why it's important, because when you watch this movie, and I said, oh, look, he's wearing a blue shirt and he's got the blue curtain behind him, and she's wearing the red or whatever, and Jin did a great job explaining that. But if you listen to like the dialogue in these scenes, it's on purpose. Because the talk show host comments on what he's wearing, and he's like, oh, look at your outfit, I love your hat. And it's like, okay, we're supposed to pay attention to what he's wearing. And then in another scene, Chandler Jarrell calls Sardo Numpsy out. Yeah, he's like, why do you purposely mispronounce my name when you know it's Jarrell? And he said, I know. So he's like acknowledging that I'm mispronouncing it on purpose. So that's why I think, like, yeah, could we be looking into it too far or whatever? Maybe. But I think the reason they put those little lines in the movie is because it is intentional. like the wardrobe choices, the way that he mispronounces the name. Like they even included it into the dialogue. It's like, why do you insist on mispronouncing my name? You know it's Gerald. And he's like, yeah, I know.
That's a solid point, Julia. That's a very solid point. And they have some great dialogue between old Noopsy and Chandler Gerald there, or Mr. Gerald, that is. You know, they have some some, as far as the antagonist, protagonist, they're not really doing a lot of duking it out, but they are doing a lot. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but they do a lot of back and forth, just, jawing at each other. So they got some classic dialogue.
Well, I do that sometimes. Like I've discussed it on lives before, that it's an old Discordian, like a chaos magician trick. You mispronounce things, or you create. Something I'm more fond of is you create compound words that are totally brand new for your use. So an example of that
Westoid. Is that what you did to me with Westoid?
No, I did not come up with that. That's something from Zoomer Twitter. I'm about 10 years too old to use that technically, but I'll give you an example, like clipolithic. So, like, people think that I just mispronounce it, but it actually makes sense because you're talking about like a stone aggregate. So that's like a compound word that you can just make, but there has to be a logic and a coherence. So you can do that instead of saying like klipa, which I don't have a problem saying, but sometimes there's an idea that the things that you say are the things you invoke. So depending on the context you're using it.
So, well, that's interesting. I appreciate that, Jen. Is that also Kino? Is that Kino?
That is considered true Kino.
I would assume it would be. I'm catching on. I'm catching on. So we were talking Yellow Dragon stuff, and the crossover with intersection with Satan, satanic cult stuff in around Los Angeles. That spoiler alert, we find out Tommy Tong, who works, is running this outlaw biker gang who kidnapped this young girl that the General Yarrow's looking for. Well, he works for old Noomsy. So we're about to find that out here right now.
Oh, Cheryl. Yeah, her. We sold her.
What do you mean you sold? You sold her to who?
To Tommy Tong. He got that restaurant down on Broadway. And we traded her a case of cigarettes and a quart of pork fried rice.
Why would somebody want to buy somebody?
He needed a girl.
For what?
He worked the steal out with the devil. Said he needed her blood.
Well, that's
I
old
have
Noomsy,
so
the
much
devil.
to say. I have so much to say.
Please
about
do.
this.
I did forget the parrot clip, which I'll play here once we discuss this one. But the parrot guy, that is how they got there, was Victor Wong, the revived parrot from The Golden Child, is the one that led them to that house.
Mm-hmm. So they do find Cheryl a little bit before this scene, and that's where he finds the bucket of oatmeal with the blood in it.
Yep.
And so again, I say this because I think it's important. They chose an actress to play Cheryl, even though she's in it for 5 seconds and she's just a dead body. It's a ginger girl. And she's the innocent
Typical.
one. She's the sacrifice, but also the devil is the ginger guy. And it's like the masculine and the feminine, but they're both red-haired ginger people. And like one's the innocent one, one's the devil. He kills her, sacrifices her, uses her blood in this ritual to kill this kid. And it's like an innocent ginger girl, and then the devil is a ginger guy. I think they do that stuff on purpose. And the only other thing I have to say about this scene is that at the very beginning, when they break into the house, they're playing a really specific song. I don't know if you caught it. It's by Rat.
No.
It's Body Talk.
I did not catch it, but please tell us.
Okay, so the album that song is on, it was Rat's debut album, and it featured themes of witchcraft, nuclear war, and global destruction. And that is the song that's playing as that scene opens up. So as I say, if you look in the background, everything is on purpose. Even a dead girl that's laying in the movie for 5 minutes that happens to be a ginger girl with this yellow dragon tattoo. And then, the devil's a red-haired guy. I think all the little tiny details actually matter in the long run.
I agree.
I agree as well, Julia, and I will say that sometimes in Tantra, the deity and his consort are depicted as red hair. But if you kind of understand, you realize it doesn't have to be red hair because it can just be the sort of appearance of red from wisdom fire. So the wisdom fire would make the hair appear red, so it could be blonde or even black, and sometimes it is also depicted as that. But I think that was also a really good point.
Somebody got the song right. Yeah, I couldn't remember the title of it, but I remembered the lyrics. But yes, that's the song too that's playing in the background. And what struck me the first time I watched it before I even decided I wanted to cover it on a conspiracy episode is I hate that song. And every time that scene plays, I'm like, somebody shoot me in the face. I hate that rat shit.
Yeah, not my scene for sure. So before we get into the oatmeal blood stuff, let's talk about the oatmeal and the blood stuff. I got a video clip to tie that into the golden child here in a minute, but what are your all's thoughts? What's all that about? What's feeding all this blood stuff about in oatmeal?
Well, before we do blood and oatmeal, which I will obviously discuss a little, is that
Jen, you better watch out. Victor Wong's got his wand out, buddy. What do you want to talk about before blood and oatmeal? What are we talking here?
Well, Victor Wong, of course. So
the orange and the red. That's why I brought this picture up.
It's perfect. It's perfect, JJ.
This is the orange and the red Nick was talking about earlier.
Yes. So orange is a really important color in Buddhism. You could almost say it's the most important color. If you were to compare it to the tree, you would definitely say that Buddhism really likes Howdy as a starting position for an upasaka or someone who practices Buddhism. So I said at the beginning that the monks depicted were of the Gelugpa, so the Gelug school. He is actually a Nagapa. So he is a sorcerer. He belongs to the Nyingma school. So it's the old school or the ancient school. So they're allowed sort of more, they give themselves a little more conceptual leeway with ideas. And he can also be a householder. So he's not restricted by monastic vows. That's why later on, spoiler alert, he gets called like a paternal name. So, but that's even what his red hat means. It's kind of like he wears the orange robe. Sometimes he would be a black coat with an orange robe. He would obviously be in turquoise jewelry, lapis lazuli jewelry, and then he would wear the red hat. And that would indicate that he is also a Buddhist. He's not just a sorcerer. So just an idea there.
So
also,
let me flip in and where they're trying to feed the golden child some of this blood oatmeal here. It's got some of those sigils you were talking about earlier, Jen. With the there's probably a lot of stuff you're all going to see that I don't have the foggiest idea about. So stand by, please. There's Noomsy.
You will eat.
So I think it's really interesting, JJ, that the sigil, it had like, I don't read Tibetan. I cannot, but I can recognize.
Hold on 1 second, Jen. Hold on 1 second. Hold that thought, please. 1 second. I just want to see him do his telepathic powers here. Or I guess technically she, the golden child, said, "Fuck your oatmeal." What were you saying there, Jen?
I apologize, JJ. I didn't.
No,
I
you're
must have
good.
turned out for a second. Okay, so I apologize for that. But I can't even remember. But I'll start with the oatmeal and blood because that's obviously what the people give the people what they want. So obviously
That's a big part of the story here, right?
That's right.
They got a week.
So,
they got to weaken the golden child to kill it.
So it is a tantric idea, just like it is in Tolima, like cakes of light. That obviously comes from Tibetan Buddhism. It's obviously like our torma cakes. Interestingly, that they use oatmeal. That's obviously a nod to. I don't know how they make cakes of light in the OTO or any of the other orders, but in Tibetan Buddhism, it's made with barley powder. So it's barley powder, starfire. So it's not the blood of a virgin, just to be very clear, and it's not even starfire as you would understand it. It's like a homeopathic, like 8 times version made into tiny little nectar pills. So and yes, it can also be other substances, and so the transgressive substances change the offering from like a peaceful offering into a wrathful offering. But in Tibetan Buddhism, nothing is ever sacrificed except yourself, like not yourself, but kind of like who you think you are. That's just their symbolic offerings to represent sort of mental or sort of like obstacles of consciousness. So you offer those obstacles of consciousness, but you put it in a vessel that is the transgressive or wrathful offering. But it in and of itself is just a container. It's not like the real thing. You're just using that as a vehicle to remove the obstacle. But the obstacle always comes from yourself. It's not from external source.
Interesting. So what are your thoughts, Nick, on all this blood oatmeal weakening of this child, the golden child, to mortal situations?
I'll look at a couple of different ways here. Well, even like Jin was going there with it too. I guess like cake of lights that does have blood in it. Stuff he was talking about has blood in it. Wheat I think is just used in general or something like that. A grain is used symbolically, I think, a lot. Just because it's cooked oatmeal. Think about it in the raw sense. You see stuff like that a lot. And then even
heart healthy?
Huh?
Is it heart healthy? It's good for my cholesterol.
Probably. Blood. In another interesting thing with that too. Even in Hebrew, it matches golden and fool. There was something else I was going to bring up before, but I didn't want to get too much on the numbers. So like I even thought like how that seemed interesting, how that like even matches like Eddie Murphy's character, but then also the kid itself again. And then
Sure.
even in
crossover again, right?
Yeah, and then even blood, and then in English it matches. I know this might be a stretch, matches Luna, but that chick's name also matches Moon. That key name.
Interesting.
You can see
it's kind of the reverse of the symbolism of the sun too, right? At that rate, right?
Yeah, and it matches full all the way around. It matches full in Hebrew and English and simple, full all the way around.
I read some theories about the golden child online, and also
Yeah.
every time before I do an episode like this, I like to check Reddit and see what people have said about it. And they did, to Nick's point, they always reference that girl. I think her name is Ki Nung or something like that in the movie.
Yep.
They reference her as supposed to be a moon deity, and I read that several times in a lot of the Reddit chats that she was supposed to be like a moon deity. So I just wanted to throw that in there. That's not my Yeah, that wasn't my conclusions, but I did see that several times on Reddit, people talking about this movie and what it could mean and stuff like that. That got
That's
brought up a
awesome.
lot.
Does that name mean anything though? King Nang? Does that have any?
I couldn't find anything on that specifically. But the blood in the oatmeal, I think it could be another thing. Obviously, what Jen and Nick are saying, and just the colors, the white and the red, I think could be significant, because out of all things to choose oatmeal, I feel like that's a little specific, because you could put blood. I feel like if I was going to try to feed somebody something with blood in it, I'd be more creative about it, like vegetable soup. then you couldn't.
Yeah, you gotta sneak it in there. You gotta find a better source to transport that blood. That's gonna taste
Like,
awful.
why oatmeal, you know?
Yeah, it seems to have importance, right? The grain or the oats there, something's important.
Yeah, and like when
Yeah.
he first digs the spoon into it, and there's that scene where it's just oatmeal on the top, and then boom, blood comes squirting out of it. And
Yeah.
it's like very cinematic how they did like the white oatmeal with the red blood squirting out. So, and then he even like takes a Polaroid
Excellent
picture
catch.
of it. So I think, you know, the colors could be significant. Also, if you want to get real surface level, like with the red hair and the white skin, the oatmeal and the blood, it's like literally all the colors in
Like
this
it.
movie mean something.
Well, I mean, I like it. You got a lot of that red stuff going on in just the movie poster, right? The official imagery
Mhm.
for the film, right? I mean, some deep reds going on. Deep reds.
Well, I can offer a little something. Is that was
Let's
great
do it.
noticing, Julia, because the white, red, and blue are the most significant colors. Like I said, orange is a really important color. Yes, green is a really important color. Yes, but the real primordial colors are white, red, and blue in that order. So obviously the Pepsi can has like multiple layers of significance just through that. It's also, you could say, like a sort of an agent of synthesis in a way, because it's like bringing, it's obviously a tin can kind of thing, or aluminum, so maybe even has mercurialness, but then it's white, so it's kind of heather, but you need other things to get there. So you have the Hesed and the Gevra, the water and the fire coming together, and then the little boy at Hode, that little golden prince, he's making it alive with his mind. So yeah, there's something very magic about that. And I think that the other, I forgot my other point, but that was a great point, Julia, and I agree. Oh, also, you can make tormas, like wrathful offerings. You can make them very gory, like looking, because you just like mold a cake basically out of barley powder and like little substance pills, and then you can make them like have eyeballs or tongues or like any of the wrathful kind of offerings. So like what Julia is saying, it's like a perfect simulacra, like it's not quite real, and it's also cinematic, so it's like a crazy offering that's squirting blood that they're telling us is real, but we also know as an audience is not really real. So it is kind of like a perfect tantric offering in a way, because it's kind of like a lie and a truth at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the 3 colors I noticed the most in this movie were red, white, and blue. And the golden child
American.
wears a traditional like little Buddhist looking robe throughout the entire movie, except for the very last scene of the movie,
Yep.
where they put a red, white, and blue shirt on him. And then Eddie Murphy gives him a hat that's blue and white. And so I
It's a
think
Dodgers
that
cap, right?
yeah, I think that I mean, the whole movie, he's like got the traditional, garb on. And then at the very last scene of the movie, he's red, white, and blue striped shirt with a blue and white hat. And so, yeah, I think that stands out. Like, I don't even know why they put that on him, honestly, because
Excellent point, though. Excellent point.
yeah, they're wearing blue again.
Yeah, you got
And
blue
he's
sky,
got
heavy
like
blue sky background.
the red, white, and blue stripes and the blue and white hat. And yeah, I think the colors definitely mean something.
I don't want to misgender this individual, not even in a trans way, but that is, just to remind you, that is a girl. Just want to let you know. Just
That's so
post the
crazy to
webs.
me.
Isn't it wild? I was shocked to learn that.
I mean, I guess they did that with the little girl, what's her face from fucking Stranger Things. So it's not the first
Yeah.
time they shaved a girl's head, and but they let her still be a girl in that.
That's
They
what I'm
didn't.
saying. And like Jen and Nick were discussing earlier with these playing of the gender role games within this occult, philosophies. I kind of see the same thing from, again, like a surface level, like you were saying, Julia. When I look at Satanism, I'm like, well, they like to play this gender game a lot in Satanism. And old Noomsy here, they call him the devil, but he's a Noomsy. But he's kind of is the devil, right? I mean, they don't really
Yeah.
classify it, but
He's a demon for sure, because he
Well,
meditates and then he speaks to the devil.
That's
So
right.
he's not
That's right. So
the
he's a demon. He's
devil.
not even the top devil. He's like a lower tier devil.
Yeah,
Old
he's
Noomsy.
like a
Middle
henchman for the
management.
devil. Yeah.
Yeah, he's middle management for Satan.
Because he can't even
but with
figure out what the fuck to do. He's got to go back and ask advice. Like, I thought you were supposed to be a demon with all your demony knowledge and shit, and you got to go back and refer back to the devil all the time like you're a retard. Like, what am I
That's a good
supposed to
point.
do? How do I
That's a good
kill him?
point.
I don't know. Stab him in the fucking face. You're a demon.
Well, no,
Come
that's
up
a
with
that's a
something.
great point, because if you're some sort of criminal mastermind and you work, this demon thing, you hire Tommy Tong, who pays some chow mein to these bikers to kidnap a girl. What are these negotiations and logistics you're going through here, bud? You're
Yeah,
a
what
demon. You
Well-
can do better. Hold on. Let me just show you who Tommy Tong is here, because he much like Victor Wong, they also starred in Big Trouble in Little China. The guy who played Tommy Tong here, but Tommy Tong was a liability, and old Noomsy wasn't having it. I mean, I didn't
Well,
say it was
what
a
is-
speaking role; it was more of a dying role, but that was Tommy Tong.
What is the rat significant for? Because they're listening to
Yeah.
a rat song, and then Noomsy just turned into a rat. So what is
You
this?
beat me to it. You beat me to it, Julia. And I feel like Asian cultures have a different significance of rats than we do here in America, but I'm sure Jen can add to that.
Well, if you wanted to give it a really Buddhist layer, you could say the rat is the vehicle of the Lord of Hosts or the Lord of Aggregates. So
Okay.
it would maybe give him like a materialistic, klepolithic, maybe even satanic. But of course, you don't have to. I'm just saying conceptually, you don't have to take it like that, right? But you could say that it gives it that element. But there's also a really interesting element that's universal. Is that in almost every culture that I've ever encountered talking about magic, they will always discuss sorcerers being able to transform into black animals. So like a rat, like a dog, like a horse,
Cat?
like a bull. Cat is actually rare. It's actually quite rare as a idea that only women, it's more women can turn into cats. Or they will say cat spirits, especially in a Chinese context, they'll say cat spirits can live a very long time. And eventually, if they can live long enough, they'll turn into women that can like marry men and etc.
So that's a lot of thoughts
I
I don't
think
want to
that
process right now.
happened
No
to-
disrespect, Jen, but I mean, I like it. That's some wild stuff you just threw out there, bud.
I think that happened to me though. I think I was born a cat and I slowly
You were born a cat.
transitioned into. Yeah, I mean, I've always just identified as a cat. Like I'm always like, go fuck yourself. You know, people come around and I'm like, and then I go
Sure.
hide somewhere. I'm better
Don't go
as an
full cat,
online
Julia.
presence. Yeah, I'm
Don't go
I'm an
full cat.
online presence. Don't come to my house though.
You want to do
because-
online vampiring like Celeste the Vampire we just had on there down the
Dude
Occult Rejects.
said I would totally do it as long as I don't have to meet a motherfucker and like
Right.
deal with you
I was
in
about to
person.
say.
Yeah. But so I was gonna say I feel like there are undertones of like the Christianity story inside this movie because the biker gang that sells the young girl for a
chow mein.
thing of pork fried rice or like
Pork
whatever
fried
that's like
rice.
the Judas
Couple of egg rolls.
you know, couple of egg rolls, you know, and then you have Sardos is trying to offer a deal to Gerald, so it's like making a deal with the devil and the
That's
chosen
literally
one
what I
and all
named
this
that clip
like-
was Deal with the Devil. That's
Yeah,
literally when I
yeah.
made that clip. I made Deal with the Devil.
So I do think there are like the like Christian aspects to this, like someone
sure.
betraying you and selling you for pork fried rice and making a deal with the devil and the whole
That's kind of
like,
making a joke of the
Judas-
satanic panic at the time, right? This is kind of the height of satanic panic, right?
Sure, I would say so.
Yeah. What's funny because I don't know where I put the clip. I was just looking for it. But speaking of all this satanic stuff, right? So in the satanic panic business, so Eddie Murphy did a show. I think it was at Coffee with Cars with Jerry Seinfeld, and he's talking about how he met Sammy Davis Jr. there around the same time he made this film. He said mid-'80s. So And old Sammy D was trying to get him to join the Church of Satan, join the dark side, as old Eddie was talking about.
I think it's important to just note really quick that we don't have a Satan figure per se. Well, maybe that's not accurate. We don't have a devil figure.
equals Satan. I meant to tell you that. Ajanti equals Satan.
Okay, what do the dagger?
Yeah.
The Ajanti dagger? The Satan dagger? Oh, that's interesting.
That's really interesting.
Do you remember what they said about it when Noopsy meditates to speak with the devil, and he
Right.
says the Ajanti dagger is not of this world, and it came from
yeah.
hell, so they could kill the golden child, like it's literally
Yep.
from hell. And
Oh, that makes
so
sense.
yeah,
They
I
had to
get
they had to
that.
make this hell, right? He had to eat the bloody oatmeal to make this hell, which kind of sounds like vampirism. Bloody
He's
oatmeal.
bringing the carnal ground to the little boy.
Not the
little
online
boy is
kind,
like
but
more of heaven, you could say. And so there's something really interesting even about the dagger, since Nick brought it up, is that dagger is actually a magical implement, but it's also a deity. That deity name is Vajra Kumara. That's an older version of text, or older.
That's not a dagger, Jim. This is a dagger.
Yes, that dagger. So it's a 3-pointed dagger, and it also is called Vajra Kumara, just like the golden boy. So the dagger can also be a deity. Like it can also.
So
be
you're
a
saying this is
deity.
also the golden child, is what you're
Right,
describing.
but then the whole point is like to perceive, like to not have a distinction between like object and perceiver. So you're kind of unified in the dagger, and you can even see there's like a figure 8 sort of thing. That's a Vajra. So like everyone always loves the Vajra, like whenever I bring it up. So that's a Vajra in the middle. But then it comes down to a single point. So at the single point should be your like will, but it's your will in complete emptiness. So it's what I'm really trying to say is it's a wand, you could say, or a dagger. It can be both things really. But it can also be you. But it's not you just like when you're holding it, playing with it. Like
So it's a dagger that identifies as a wand sometimes.
Yes, like you could say you could say the apotheosis of a person is the golden child. I think that's a very Christian Kabbalistic way to kind of look at it, or even a theosophical way. Like I think that's what Nick and I have both been like getting at, is that it's like someone rising through the tree, but it could be like a real person, maybe a magician.
Okay. It's a pretty wild dagger.
Even I don't want to try to get into it too much. I explained.
Go ahead.
A couple of years ago, I had covered Michael Myers, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street. How I both thought that they kind of both represented beasts, and both like possibly like Janus. And again, they both, Freddy has the daggers, kind of finger daggers, and the other guy is known for a knife as well. And I do, even when I was showing, there's something in, I think, line 2 and line 17, I think both associate with like Janus in Crowley 777. And somewhere, like, I think a knife or like a cross or something along those lines comes up associated with that. And that was like another thing I was showing that I was trying to explain. And if you think about it in a sense, if you look at the dagger now, it's already got the two-faced God right at the bottom.
That's what I was just going to say, right? So is that Janus, the two faces you see there, right?
Well,
Janus?
so he technically has 5 faces, but sometimes it will just show as 3 or 1 with a face above it. So it'll be like a little. He'll kind of like it'll like represent like his higher consciousness, the face above it. And interestingly, to go off Nick's comment, is that when you look at him in art, so just Buddhist art, although sometimes they make daggers like this, he will be depicted in full form and he'll have wings. So all in, it will look like very much like a cross or a crucifix, maybe not as, it looks like a tau anyway. And that is kind of the idea. And so like Julia was saying, like raising something from hell, that he is the adamantine sun. So that's another way to understand it. Like he's forged in hellfire, but he's a little more powerful than that. So you can see there's like a redemptive, you could call it like a Buddhist arc or a theosophical arc, but I think that also parallels like the guy has to draw his power, the evil sorcerer has to draw his powers from like a worldly spirit, a spirit that is not omnipotent, is not omnipresent, just has a goal to become like I don't know, more of this earth or whatever. But the golden child, he sort of transcends all that. He's sort of above it. He's not worldly. So that's kind of what the dagger also represents, you could say.
Real
the
quick,
chosen one can wield the dagger too, right?
I don't know. Can yeah, you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole measurement, right? Old Victor Wong's like, well, we'll find out if you can get that dagger, bud. If you're up to the challenge.
Golden child. Real quick too. Even when I had covered the movie From Hell, I showed symbolism in that about Janice, and that's all about slicing motherfuckers up too with shit.
That's a good one to do a breakdown on because there's
Sure.
a ton of stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Johnny Depps, actually. I love that one. So what do you guys think about him eating those little twigs throughout the whole movie? Do you think that's significant in a
good
way?
point.
Yes. One thing I was going to bring up too with the whole blood stuff, it even goes back to some guy in Pericles from like 500 BC. He was even stating that if you want to do magical stuff, you're going to have to stop taking in blood. You're going to have to start like kind of eating like a vegetarian, and blood would be like, it would just be a bad thing. It would make you dirty. I can't think of the word right now. But
well, that's what make it. That's what the deal is here, right? It would make him dirty. He'd be immortal, right? He would be of the earth.
Yeah, and he goes on about eating like stuff like it. So it makes sense that the kid's like eating a plant. It's not. He's eating a vegetarian diet, in my opinion. And the blood,
literally eating like one leaf a day for several days.
And he can clearly do a lot of things to solve that problem with his magical wizard abilities, right?
Yeah.
We saw him make a dancing Pepsi can. Come on, get out of here. This guy can find some food.
I even wondered about that too with the eating. If, in my opinion, like I would think that maybe your senses. This is hard to explain, but like your body's gonna have to start paying it. Like if to have a magical experience, you're gonna have to slip out a little bit. And I guess like if you're thinking about if you're putting stuff back into your body, it's gonna have to pay attention. Like your stomach's gonna have to start paying attention to the food. This is really hard and deep what I'm trying to explain here, but I do think like maybe
magical fast.
Yeah, it's almost like there's nothing there for your body to have to actually spend any energy.
Sure. So you can concentrate the energy on magical stuff.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I put in my notes to ask you guys about it because I couldn't figure out what it meant. Because
I totally forgot about that.
Little twig thing in his pocket, and he'd pull it out, and he just eat a twig a day. And
it was like a mint leaf as a kid.
Right. I was like, this
He's
is
like
obviously
gnawing on something like a panda bear, right?
I was like, oh, that's
panda
like
bear.
They put in gum to make it,
So we haven't. He went on quite a journey to get that dagger. I'm assuming there's some elements of this journey that have some deeper understanding. So old Chandler Yarrow there goes to Tibet. Well, technically he was Mammoth Lakes, California, but they did a good job at making it look like Tibet. But got a clip for us here in that journey on to get this here dagger.
We have come to ask for the sacred cross dagger of Ajanti.
For what reason?
For the golden child.
So that's the sacred cross dagger.
Cut out right
Satan,
before the funny part.
No, I got that coming up. I wanted to talk. I got that coming up, Julia. Don't worry about it. So that's the sacred cross dagger of Satan, huh?
Well, he's only Satan when he's like all over the place. When he's single pointed in his will, then he reaches apotheosis. He becomes like I'm going to use like a word. It's going to get me in trouble, but I'm just going to say it anyway. He becomes Christ-like. If you want to say it like that, you can say it like that. It's okay.
Sure. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So what are we looking at here with this whole scene before we get to I didn't leave out the funny part, Julia. Trust me. I got that here. What are we looking at here with this whole scene he's walking into, spinning these these pillars and, you know, talking to this guy who's this wizard fellow / bird. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Say that again.
The whole scene he walks into here with this temple and he's got to spin his pillars and he's talking to the wizard bird fella, you know, Egg Shin.
Mm-hmm.
What's all this about? And then why would this knife be housed there? You know what I mean? Like, why are these the keepers of the knife? Is that what we're looking at here? These monks?
Yeah. I don't know. I saw that part of like the hero's journey. Kind of.
I put that it was the hero's journey in my notes, but I grouped this scene in with like him having to carry the water and the.
That's what I was getting at. Yep, that's exactly
going
what I was
across
doing with
the
it.
bridge and doing all.
Yeah.
So I mean, I grouped this scene in with the scene that follows as the hero's journey part of the story. Which the hero's journey, I mean, honestly, Christ falls into the hero's journey thing, right? So I don't think it's bad to say that. I think it's like an archetype.
You're welcome to say that, Julia. You and Jin both can make Christ references here on Operation GCD. It's not banned. It's not censored.
Well,
Even
I'm a Christian,
didn't
so I
mind.
can say that.
He's dead, I think.
Huh?
I said even Noomsy won't mind. He's dead, I think.
Oh, really? I always thought he was a good-looking guy. I didn't know he was dead.
Well, the actor, I think, is alive. He played a very good villain in Last Action Hero as well. But here in the film, Noomsy does not meet a good end. And he's not.
No.
And again, I know there's a lot of Eastern mysticism stuff, but I mean, it's hard to not see this through a, you know, very Christian satanic lens of the satanic panic era, right?
Well, I am a Christian, so I feel like that's the only lens that I look through a lot of times. But I mean, I always love to talk to people like Jin and Nick because they get me to look outside of my own perspective on things and to understand like we can all be right at the same time. But it's like I always say, it's like a 5-layer burrito, and there's many layers to it. There's like many things.
I'm an
going
alien
on
Christian. Does that work out well in this perspectives?
You can map it all to the tree.
Formerly an alien
really
Christian.
matter. It doesn't really matter. You can honestly look at everything like Kabbalah, like what Julia said. You can just understand that Kabbalistically, and then it's no problem. So you can kind of look at all the systems and say, like, okay, this is what this prefers, and this is how to get there. But you don't have to agree. It just is like you can look at it and say, yeah, this is the relative truth. So you can be fine with it. So that's how I feel about like most other religions, not all of them, but like Christianity for sure. Like Christian Kabbalah makes perfect sense to me. It's no problem.
Yeah, and jokes aside and dragon rapes aside, I think, you know, what I was getting at with the Satan figure here, Noomsy here, you know, they obviously have these satanic cult elements, you know, tied in here, like we were talking about before with the biker gangs, the kidnappings, you know, these common tropes and understandings of this of these real world situations that transpired but are depicted here in this film. But what I always like to say also in those regards is like those people that are doing these things, they don't believe in Satan also was one thing that's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at.
So you really aren't you really aren't an alien Christian or whatever you just
formerly.
What does that mean, that Jesus was an extraterrestrial, or what does that mean?
Yeah, well, you know, God lives on Kolob. That's a different story altogether. It's near the star Sirius.
A serious guy, huh?
Yeah, very, very much so. No, that was the first 22 years of my life. I recently just surpassed the, you know, I've now longer been not a Mormon than I was a Mormon. So.
Oh, Mormonism, huh?
That's the alien.
Well, Heidi knows this
Christ.
is that. Sorry, JJ.
You're good, dude. You're good.
I just want to say that Heidi already knows this, but like I'm very fascinated by like how Mormons think of like the tree and what they're doing. I don't want to be a Mormon. I'm not a Mormon or anything like that.
I'll sign you up right now, Jen. Let's get it. Let's make it happen. You want to be a Mormon?
Go
to blast off to the mothership?
I don't know enough. I don't know anything about it, but I'm just saying
He's on the mothership.
I just like it for the Kabbalah.
He's already on the mothership.
Sure.
Huh?
All right, well, let's
on the mothership.
Let's blast off. Let's check out that funny scene here though, from where he
Oh, you're gonna do another scene.
Yeah.
I love it.
Let him ask it. said, I want the knife. Let him ask again. I want the knife. Please. Only a man whose heart is pure can wield a knife. And if you're such a man, you will have it.
I love that you
Apparently,
included clips too, by the way, because that's what makes the movie breakdowns the best.
I agree. I totally agree. Apparently, YouTube does not agree, though. Apparently, YouTube's not liking the use of the clips, but I totally agree with you.
Clips. The clips are. I was hoping you would include the clip where he's at that medicinal shop and looking at all the herbs, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's good to keep the yang up," and he's like, "Nothing wrong with my yang."
No, I didn't get that one. I know the one you're talking. Know the scene you're talking about, though. No, it's some classic '80s Murphy, right? It's some classic '80s Murphy, but the this idea though of this machination of this kind of satanic elements, cult stuff in Los Angeles with this Tibetan Buddhism stuff, to me just rings back to my digging through the thoughts in my brain hole here. I recall Ed Sanders files, the author of The Family there, the Manson family, the actual good book on the Manson family, contemporary to the actual crimes, not the Bugliosi nonsense. But Ed Sanders wrote his, at the same time was writing his book there in the early 70s, and I think it was published in 74. But Sanders' investigation was yielding some, results that seemed to indicate there was a machination of Buddhist ideas, Thelemic ideas, and theosophical ideas, I believe, into a cult faction that was also a Kali worshiping cult faction out of Japan called the Shingon cult. Not Chingon, but Shingon with the S.
So it totally correlates to what I know of like certain we'll call them, like, I guess they would have been like process offshoots or whatever. And so like Miguel,
that's what this was supposedly, right? The 4-Pi allegedly was this 4-Pi
right.
Shingon cult.
That's right. So I mean, this is the thing, is that there were I don't know, in Nepal during this whole post-war period, there have been Kali kind of cults that are like parts Thelema, just like you're saying. They're like parts Vajrayana, they're parts Hindu, like Tantra, they're parts like Satanism, they're parts process. Like, it's kind of a weird blend, but it's like taking the most transgressive elements of all of them. So pretty much that's what I kind of understand of them, is that they're just like really so Kali in Tantra is related to Saturn, so that would immediately place her in Binah. So if you're looking at the tree as like a 10 or 11 sphered structure, she would never go at Kether. She would always go at Binah, if you're really understanding what she is. So they're looking at it as like this way to like, it's kind of like the black cube matrix. Like, everybody loves that kind of like thing. That's kind of what it is, but you're putting yourself in the box. Like, you're putting yourself in the cube. You're densifying the world around you. And so Nick brought up at the very beginning, like, we were talking about Golden Child, and like, I don't know, he said the gematria of something, and he said it was related to Vishnu. So Vishnu is related to Binah and related to Saturn very closely. So there's this relationship that you can sort of, in Vaishnavism, which is a kind of Hinduism, you pray to Vishnu through bhakti. So it's like considered to be like devotional love. You pray so hard that eventually it will liberate you or eject you from the cube or whatever it is. But it supposedly will take you millions of lifetimes. So in a more tantric way, you would never get stuck here. But obviously these people, they're really fixated on Kali. So that would be obviously a big problem from a Buddhist perspective, because you wouldn't just fixate on a deity or their name or, their ferocious presentation. Those are just conceptual ideas.
You're saying it's a unique, more of an extremist view of these situations, right?
Yeah, it's an annihilationist, very extremist, very antinomian.
Very non-Kino, if you will.
Non-Kino, because it's
Very
not about
non-Kino.
embracing love or like the beauty of Maya, the beauty of the garden, or like, connections with other people. It's like kind of
I'm tracking, Jen. I'm catching on to this Kino business. I'll get there eventually, but
you're there. So the Kino thing is to love the world and like accept it for what it is. And then their view is to like, they're kind of Calvinist almost in their way. They're like, we're going to degrade the world. We're going to do all this sin in the world, and we're going to make it like from the ashes. We're going to remake it. But you don't really get to control the cosmic cycle. That's a more Buddhist view. Obviously, they do believe that they can like influence the cosmic cycle, but I don't personally believe they can.
JJ, have you heard of the Thuggy cult that was doing all the Kali worshipping stuff?
I think you told me about it. Somebody told me about it not that long ago.
I thought I did. Yeah, I just covered them. I'm doing a new series on different cults. It's called Into the Cultiverse, and I covered the Thuggy cult, and they were like Kali worshippers, whatever. But if you really look into it, because like I always say, there's like a 5-layer burrito. The
all this food
Thuggies,
talk, I'm getting real hungry. Chow mein, burritos.
dude, I love Taco Bell. Shit. If you go all the way back into history with the Thuggy cults, they could have possibly been assassins under the employ of the Brahmin family. And I know we just spoke about the Brahmin family in connection with Tuesday Weld and the Boston Brahmins. And so there's an aspect
talking
of
Indian Brahmins, because that's Kamala Harris's people right there.
Yeah, that's the same Brahmins that I'm talking about. So yeah, there's a level of like Kali worshipping or whatever, but if you really look under the surface, it's all tied up in these weird royal bloodline families and stuff. So it's like you said about the Manson thing. It's more than just like the Bugliosi, they hated cops or whatever the fuck he was trying. It started a race war. It's like, no, let's really look at this, peel the layers back and look at what's underneath.
I think Bugliosi's theory was they wore too much patchouli oil.
Oh my god!
They went mad from the patchouli oil. They had mad patchouli oil disease.
They had patchouli oil BO stank.
I like patchouli, so I'll stand up for it.
Jen, I'm sorry.
Oh man,
no, it's totally okay. I actually like Vetiver better, so I'll tell myself a little. But no, you're totally right, both of you guys. Like, there's like deeper connections. Like Vajrayana has a lot of connections to some of these, obviously Nexium and other things, and it's kind of like the old ideas that we lived in the Kali Yuga, like bringing up this idea of Kali. It's not directly one-to-one related to the goddess, but you can use it as an archetypal metaphor. So she's like very destructive. She's destroying the old system kind of, but it's also bringing things in. So her power is really magnetization, but it's the destruction through time. So you can think of it like traveling through space. You're degrading, you're getting older, exactly that same thing. And then you're going to go to the carnal ground and become a skeleton and, like take on a new rebirth eventually. So that's what she's doing. It's kind of like bringing you through the cosmic cycle. So like Julia was talking about these like Brahmin families, a lot of the Brahmin caste, so it's like a birth caste that you're born into, they do believe in this Vishnu figure. So they will outwardly pray to the Vishnu figure, but there is also a secret tantric idea that you will do a Shakta Tantra or Goddess Tantra secretly at night, even though you pray to this like very orthodox, heroic, kind of like good guy. He's the hero of the Bhagavad Gita. He's like, he's the king of heaven. But at night, you're doing something more transgressive, more tantric, more secret, mystery cult stuff. So, yeah, I think there's a really interesting idea with that, what Julia was saying. It's like kind of always like there's an inverse, and then there's like, it depends on how you look at it. Like from what perspective.
You got to look at it.
Mm-hmm. both ways.
You gotta look at it. No, I think it's an interesting one. I was just looking. We're still up on YouTube there, Nick. I don't know what.
We're good now.
Yeah,
it's back.
That's odd.
Did they kick us off?
I don't know. I won't flagrantly play another clip just in case.
I'll probably pull it down after this, after the live though.
Because of the clips, those bitches.
Oh, you're gonna play another one?
No, I said I won't since we're still up. I was going to if we weren't, but yeah, I'm looking on both of our channels. We're still up.
Yeah.
Programming note here, but let's it's a good point to wrap this up. So, may I thank you all for your time this evening. First and foremost, I appreciate y'all joining me to do an occult and/or esoteric review of The Golden Child. Obviously, I kind of gave the spoiler alert earlier. Old Nipsey dies, courtesy of that dagger, and any closing comments I can pass off to y'all, starting with you there, Julia. I appreciate your time, ma'am. Great conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, I just have a few closing ideas for the movie. And thanks for inviting me.
Don't feel rushed. Don't feel rushed at all. But absolutely.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. I noticed that the movie begins with him resurrecting a bird, and then the movie begins with a resurrection and it ends with a resurrection because he brings back the moon deity, if you will, or the moon goddess. He brings her back. So it starts and ends with resurrection. Also, at the end of the movie, he is bringing monarch butterflies back to life. So I don't know if anybody else caught that, but of course, the whole monarch thing. So I thought that was pretty significant. And then the house where they're keeping the golden child has black and white tile floors. So those were some of the main things at the end of the movie that I thought would be cool to mention for this breakdown. But yeah, like I said, I've been looking for somebody to want to talk about this for a couple years now. Just because I feel like there's so many little tidbits in there that are cool, and it's a hilarious movie. And it's for me, I like to cover nostalgic childhood movies that I loved, and this is one of them for sure.
Nice.
I watched it all the time when I was a kid. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. I feel the same way about the nostalgic movies of my childhood, and this is up there with Goonies for me. This one is. We're in big trouble.
I love Goonies.
For sure. No, thanks again, Nick. Do you have any closing statements on your review of the film, or any thoughts or any plugs you'd like to discuss here?
No. I mean, I was excited we got to do it because I definitely think it's a deeply occulted movie for sure.
Yeah.
I thought this was great. Everybody had great stuff to say. Yeah. Besides that, for me, the one thing that I just do want to push is, which I think like we're all probably saying it anyway, I do think there's a Kabbalistic tale. There's Kabbalistic symbolism in this movie, for sure. And I think you can, if you pay attention and look at it with the colors and certain symbols and the male and female characters, I think you'll see it. That's it.
Nice. Anything coming up on the Occult Rejects?
Oh yeah, again. Let's see. I can tell you a few things that are coming out. Oh yeah, we got the Mormon Mafia coming out on audio. Red Heifer this Friday. We got Sumerian Deities next week with Grey Pilled, and the Coral Castle with Library of the Untold coming out soon too.
Don't forget about Vampire Lady.
Yes,
the vampire.
Yes,
she was a nice vampire. She didn't try to eat anybody.
Yeah, that'll drop on audio as well for people who have not heard that yet. That's already been done, and I think it's still out on the live. So check it out now.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm leaving that up.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, sir. Jen, appreciate your time, sir. Any closing thoughts on the 1986 cinematic masterpiece, The Golden Child?
So if you research Ken MacLeod, he wrote a new book. I mentioned it right at the beginning, Magic of Adriana. He talks about all the stuff that Nick and I just discussed. Like a lot, he understands Kabbalah as well. Like, or he just he's able to like the system doesn't matter. He just kind of he's had the experience, so it doesn't really matter. He's just describing something. So everybody can, I'm not recommending him necessarily, but if you look into his background, he actually has a really interesting teacher. I'm sure JJ would find it really fascinating, and who was sort of the object of his own perhaps scandal, we'll say, in the past. But I'm not casting aspersions on anyone. I'm just saying it is kind of interesting. But he is a very interesting teacher, and I think he has some profound things to say. And I think he obviously consulted. I think he taught, like, showed them how to use the Kabbalistic ideas, but like make sure it was, as much as it is syncretic, I think it keeps to, like, it's a Vajra film, you could say. It like really has that aesthetic, but it also keeps true to a lot of the ideas. So I want to just say thank you so much to JJ. Thank you so much to Nick. Always bringing me on, Nick. Really appreciate it. And of course, Julia, we've worked together. I think this is our 4th time, but we've never we spoke a little bit with Celeste. So I will end on this. I told you waning. So waning is more my thinking, whereas like you're trying to like cast the sort of like the bad luck into the past. That's when
are these the barber tips?
Yeah, this
I
is a
love
barber tip.
these tips. I
So
love these tips.
So if it's waning moon, you cut your hair and then you burn, like as I said, you can burn it. So that's like casting the old you into the past. Or if you want like to feel more beautiful, that's a good maybe word to use. You could do it on a waxing moon, because that would like sort of empower you. So it's like either idea. I'm more of a waning person just because I always think like that, but maybe it's good to consider balance.
Well, I will say this, and I'm so glad you brought it up again. God bless you, because my appointment's tomorrow and it is a waning moon. I over the last year I've been through a lot, divorce and all kinds of stuff. And so, like, my ex-husband touched this hair and I want it off my head. I want it cut. I want it gone off of me. I want a new, fresh start. So I think the waning
Mohawk?
is. No, I'm just thinking it's at least half of it's got to go. It's got to go.
Probably kill it with a mohawk
I
there, Julia. You'd be pretty frightening looking, like very intimidating. No one want to fuck with you. You'd be like, oh shit, she's got a mohawk.
I could be a ginger mohawk kind of gal. I might do that. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm gonna go with the waning moon on this one, Jin, because I need a new me. A new year, new me.
Well, I'm glad that I could rectify that, because I felt bad leaving you on the waning thing, knowing that there was 2, but I didn't really think of it at first. So I'm glad I could correct it. So thank you for giving me that. And of course, thank you to JJ for inviting me to do these occult film reviews. Everybody knows it's my favorite. I love the Agitator podcast as well with J. David Osborne, and he's going to come on my show. And, you know, they talk about Japanese movies. Obviously, doing cinema reviews is kind of my secret dream as a podcaster, but I'm more of an occultist, really. So
that's very Kino of
like
you.
To stick to
very
what
Kino
I'm
of you, Jin.
Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate y'all. It's one of my favorite films. I'm glad we got a chance to discuss it. Definitely a big fan of The Golden Child. And thanks to all folks of the interwebs for joining us. Again, JJ Vance, not the vice president, host of Operation GCD, also co-host of Fridays there with Nick on the Occult Rejects Operation GCD mashup there. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good evening.
Well, that's it. That's the show here, folks. So the next time you're out on the town, visiting your local watering holes, or perhaps just meandering around, and you hear the unmistakable sounds of metal clanking, and you spot signs of a disturbance, but check your 6. Look in that garbage can, because you never can tell. The GCDs may be loose in your town.